Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, artists, you name it, all over the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest. All my guests are pretty incredible. Without further ado, I have the Chief Operating Officer of Web3 AI gaming ecosystem, ArenaX Labs. His name is Wei Xie. Welcome to the show, Wei.
Hey Jamil, nice to be here, and thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. And let me ask you, let's kick things off and ask you the first question is about your background. What is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Uh, Completely illogical for what I'm doing right now. I actually have a TradFi background. Spent over 12 years in finance, basically on the asset management side, managing portfolio for institutional kind of investor in Canada. It's a large pension fund, and then prior to kind of co-founding ArenaX Labs, was leading a $7 billion liquid strategies program, investing across the board. That is also where I had the opportunity to start investing into crypto from an institutional context as well. So I was able to kind of build a network within crypto, understand the technology, understand the kind of the vision behind what people were doing in this space. And in 20, I think late 2020, my co-founder and we started to ideate around what we can do potentially with NFTs, having done a more of a deep dive into what that kind of technological primitive allows. And that was like the precursor for AI Arena.
Got it. So, Arena X Labs, right? What's it all about?
Mhm.
Including, you're at this unique intersection of Web3 and AI gaming. So, I'm
For
interested
sure.
in hearing.
Yeah, I think the starting point was we started building a game called AI Arena. I'll touch a little bit about the game, and then I'll talk about where the business is today. But AI Arena is a game where human players are able to train artificial intelligence characters. I'd like to describe the gameplay as a crossover between Super Smash Bros. And Pokemon. When you watch it, it obviously looks like a platform fighting game like Super Smash. However, the core game loop was one where human players are training AI models. So it's like a Pokemon-based game loop where you're training a character to become better at something. However, in our game, because these characters are artificial intelligence models, they can basically learn anything. So it's an incredibly vast kind of search space in terms of discovery of what you can actually teach your characters, and then what you're trying to teach them is to how to become a better fighter in this platform fighting game. So in the process of and in the journey of building this, we solved some very challenging kind of machine learning problems along the way to build a game like this. And where we are now from a business standpoint is there's actually three different segments, if you want to call it. AI Arena is still the title that we're producing and bringing to market shortly in Q2 this year. We're also starting to roll out our gaming infrastructure called Arc. What Arc is basically an SDK that now we're offering to third-party game studios, whereby we can start to integrate this type of AI training game loop into other games. So we've been starting to build a pipeline there of clients that would be using Arc as a solution. These span the gambit of large to small size game studios developing different types of game experiences. And then the third segment of the business is a machine learning competition platform called Psi. It is meant to target more sophisticated AI researchers or machine learning engineers. On Psi, there will be multiple different environments, think games. And what these researchers and engineers are able to do is go on a platform and basically build their own AI models to compete in these competitions. So it's kind of like digital battle bots, but there's a variety of different game environments for people to challenge themselves with. And the idea behind Psi is to attract the best and the brightest that are kind of working within the machine learning space and give them a forum to really express themselves and have them push the envelope on model design, and see who can come up with the most unique and interesting models to tackle really difficult problems that are basically framed as game environments. So those are the three segments of the business that we're building today. Happy to elaborate or kind of go down any one of these paths.
I prefer to go down all three paths. Let's see. First, AI Arena. I want to start
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yep.
Been in sign arc later. I want to know what the play pitch is and why must people play this game. People could play any games, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of games. Why must people play this game?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, is there's nothing like this that's ever existed. The core game loop of training an AI through what a process called imitation learning, whereby the AI is really learning how to play the game through watching you by your demonstration. It's kind of similar to how you would teach a child how to play soccer or train a pet to do tricks, right? Like the starting point is to actually demonstrate actions for them to replicate. And then the in addition to that, what you're allowed to, what you're able to do is you're actually able to um, help explain to the AI or sensitize how it's learning the information based on different types of levers that it understands, that it can kind of change as variables. So depending on how you dial these levers in terms of sensitivity, it learns the information differently. So the combination of demonstration and this configuration step creates what I mentioned before is a vast kind of research space of things that it can learn. So it's almost like there's no theoretical ceiling in terms of how you can create a very kind of bespoke or unique AI. There is almost an infinite combination of different types of things that you can teach your AI. So what it lends itself to is a extremely competitive game, and we designed it as such, um, because people can just use their creativity and ingenuity to really train different types of AIs. And what we want to see in the central competition is who's able to kind of train the most exciting AI. And people are coming at it from all different angles. And we call it an evergreen, like, infinite game because it never ends. It's kind of like chess, right? Where you're just new people are always playing, and then once in a while, someone comes to the scene and they're figure out a new way or play style, and they completely change the complexion of the competition itself. So that's been the experience with AI Arena. Completely different novel game experience. I think we're at a moment in time where AI is very exciting and more people are looking to explore ways of interacting with the technology. And we think gaming is a fantastic medium. And within gaming, we think we have one of the most unique applications of AI in terms of how we've used it to create a new gameplay experience. But really, we hope to kind of start help to perhaps launch a new category within games. And this is why, we think AI Arena is really exciting. And this is kind of the feedback that we've received from early players in the game.
It sounds exciting. It sounds like it's the first of its kind. Usually it's the AI teaching us stuff, and we're teaching the AI, so that's pretty cool. That sounds like I'm interested. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, okay, say Psy and
Mm-hmm.
Arc. How
Mm-hmm.
can developers create intelligent gameplay? Well, I mean, you already talked about that, but how do we like imitation learning, right? What's that all
Mm-hmm.
about? How are you helping, with that? And what's the potential and possibilities because of imitation learning?
Yeah. So imitation learning, at a high level, it's actually a subcategory of reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning, for people who don't know, is this field of machine learning where it almost kind of mimics how humans learn, which is really through a reward function. So you're not necessarily training the AI in the way that you would train like a supervised learning type model. You're really setting for a reward function where it's like +1 point for these types of things and -1 point or minus there's like a reward function and a penalty function basically. And then you allow this model to kind of interact with an environment and kind of almost figure out on its own how to behave with the objective of maximizing the reward, right? Like I want you to maximize the total amount of points. So what imitation learning is basically an accelerated version of this, where traditional reinforcement learning, it takes a very long time for an AI to kind of learn an effective policy if you just allow it to discover. It's almost like you're jamming billions of years of evolution into like a very short period of time and hope that it like figures it out. Eventually it will, but it takes a lot of computation and potentially kind of resources to get there. In imitation learning, what you're doing is you're actually injecting an expert into the learning loop, and that expert is the human. So what you're able to do is you're able to shrink down the time it takes for the AI to learn an effective behavior, because the expert in the human can help short circuit some of the things that it's inevitably going to make in terms of mistakes, right? So if you abstract this idea to AI Arena, what you're doing is instead of letting the AI just figure it out on its own, you're saying, okay, I want you to be like, here's a situation. You are close to your opponent. I'm going to show you what you do in this situation, right? So you actually demonstrate the action of punching your opponent when you're in close proximity to it. This is now a data that you're creating for the AI model to learn from. It will now learn that information from you because you help to accelerate its learning in that particular context, so that it doesn't have to like just through pure brutal trial and error figure it out, right? So that's the process of imitation learning. What is actually interesting about it is it actually makes it, to gamify this process actually is extremely fun, because as you can imagine, it like the analogy like of a Pokemon game, like Pokemon is a huge kind of franchise that people like endear themselves to. There's this magic about being able to train someone else or something else to be able to do things and see them continue to evolve and progress. Again, in this case, we just made that training loop so much more powerful, right? In traditional training based games, you can maybe teach your character a few different things, or they come pre programmed with a menu of a few different attacks or defense, and you're really just like cycling through that. In AI Arena, it's like I said, you can teach it anything. It's like you're teaching a child, and they're infinite in terms of what they're able to learn. So this is a radically different type of strategy that's embedded into how you pursue training an AI, and it actually makes like the game loop extremely interesting. So we see imitation learning. I mean, obviously, it has a lot of applications in the domain of machine learning itself, but in a gaming context, first and foremost, is a very interesting game loop that we think we can take many different types of games and embed this type of game loop into it. Um, and yeah, and it also, like from a technical standpoint, we've also developed capabilities around um, the ability to actually make our models run very efficiently, so that users with very modest computers can run the game on browser. We actually allow like our clients who use the Arc SDK to leverage our models, and in doing so, they're actually saving tremendously on compute and data storage costs because our models are so efficient at processing information. And we solved one key problem that exists in reinforcement learning, which is this concept of catastrophic forgetting. And in layman's term, what it is that machine learning models have this problem whereby left to its own devices, it has a very difficult time, or it's very difficult for it to arbitrate or balance prior information with new information. So in traditional machine learning, what happens is people just accumulate ever larger data sets. And the data set warehouses almost, as you can imagine, like the sum total of collective experience that has ever been registered. And you pipe all of that data into a model to hope that it's storing all this information and it could, make useful inferences out of sample on applications. It's extremely taxing from a resourcing perspective. Like most small companies do not have the ability to accumulate data sets that large, nor can they pay for it. And then the compute resources necessary to process models at that size is enormous. What we have done is with our models, we actually have this ability for our models to learn, retain information, and you can actually discard old data. You don't have to store it. And the model itself has learned that intuition, and the intuition is embedded in the model that it can take on into the future. without having to worry that it forgot like historical memories. And at the same time, you can still marginally improve it. So you can still teach it new things, and you can actually control how much it forgets of old things and how much you can learn new things. So that capability is quite unique. We think it's a proprietary solution that we've come up with, and there's going to be a lot more application areas in gaming in the future. So this is an area that we're going to distribute and explore and help other studios come up with better experiences and better kind of cost efficiencies in managing kind of AI-based games.
I see the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
If I see it that's pretty cool. What I also see is what people are afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we teach the AI learns who we are, they learns everything we do, and then they catastrophically forget that we're the master and they become the master. Um, what's how do you prevent that? And how do you prevent people from being afraid of that happening?
Yeah, I mean, in our context, it's very constrained to a game-like environment. So the existential risk of our AI companions overthrowing us as masters is rather uh, minute in our context. Is not the models aren't powerful enough to pose a threat. However, I think the question is more writ large AI as a theme and the way that is progressing. I think a lot of people are debating where all of this goes. And certainly there is this scenario of how do we control AI when it becomes so powerful that it can effectively make its own decisions? And what are some of the kind of the boundaries or rules or fail safes that we need to have in place to ensure that their ultimate objective function isn't at odds with human existence or continued human existence? Um, it's a profoundly challenging question to answer. I don't think anyone has the answer necessarily. I think generally I take a bit more of an optimistic bent. I think um, a lot of this comes down to thoughtful engineering, but also how we think about developing AI and machine learning systems. And this, not this particular problem, but this theme of like, we believe a version of the world where a more democratized um, kind of approach to model design will yield better benefits for the AI industry, but humanity at large. I think right now, one of the biggest challenges confronting the industry is that there's a consolidation of power in very few companies. But even more so than that, there's a very myopic perspective in terms of what constitutes good technology. And to reduce that into a couple of punchlines, right now the entire field is focused on larger and larger models, and large language models and generative models. Like that's literally where all of the attention is. Um, and we think that's actually a net negative in terms of progression in the industry because it's not to say that LLMs or generative models are not useful. They absolutely are, but there are equally as exciting and interesting categories within machine learning that have not received nearly as much enthusiasm and as much attention, and are areas that we believe will yield much more impactful results going forward on a forward-looking basis. So part of the mission of what we're doing at ArenaX Labs is to inspire the next generation of talented young individuals to come into the AI and machine learning space first, potentially through a game as this kind of discovery portal where they can learn more about the intricacies of AI, what it actually is, how it learns, how you can actually, tune it to help it perform better through a game like AI Arena. And then ultimately move on to something like Psy, which is for a more sophisticated audience, right? So where you can actually start to build your own AI models. And what we hope to see in Psy is creativity come to the fold and expand the surface area of AI technology, whereby we can start to fill the gaps of the areas that are underdiscovered or underexplored, because there's such an overwhelming bias right now in the industry to focus on rather small segments of the technology. So in doing so, what we hope is we have this slogan on the side is that we're making solving artificial general intelligence as a general problem more fun. And we fundamentally believe that model variety and different types of models, i.e., not just large language models, not just generative models, is the key to an accelerated path forward to artificial general intelligence. And that diversity will yield more robust kind of results for humanity to solve some of the problems that you mentioned. Because there's just more, I guess, like more shots on goal, right? And there's more variety for people to kind of explore, and there could be solutions that come through those channels that are critical and important for some of these profound problems that you're posing.
I have a brief follow up. I think it's brief. I know AI is part of the machine learning process. You said there are other areas within machine learning. What are those other areas?
So, okay, so artificial intelligence is like a banner term with reference to um, basically like systems, like algorithms or systems that have very, very powerful kind of ability to kind of perform tasks where it feels like it's, approaching like human intelligence, right? That's the whole concept of what artificial intelligence is as a field. Machine learning within that is a subcategory of artificial intelligence. It's a particular approach to building models to have this type of ability to solve problems. Within machine learning, there's different types of model, call it architectures, right? Different types of models. And the reason why there are different types of models is, at least right now, there is no universal model that can solve every single problem. It just doesn't exist. So what happens is there are different types of model architectures that are designed to specifically solve different types of problems more effectively. And large language models are a category of models, right? And there are very evidently things that large language models cannot do. But what we're discovering right now is actually large language models do have a lot of use cases where we can actually integrate it into other instances where it does add value to those processes. And I think we're in the early stages of this kind of like discovery renaissance of the capabilities of a lot of these types of models. And early on, LLMs have taken a leadership role. And because there's so much money to be made in LLMs, I think our view right now is, unfortunately, most of the talent are just going to where the money is, right? Going to where the attention is. So what that means is less people are actually exploring what other types of model architectures can be created to solve similar problems better or completely different types of problems more effectively. And if our ultimate goal is artificial general intelligence, which is again a blanket kind of term to refer to systems that are basically at or beyond the level of human intelligence, we believe that we need to discover and explore more types of model categories and invest more resources and incentivize more people to actually do the research in these areas than just LLMs. So that's what I was trying to get at in terms of different types of model architecture. There's many different types, and I'm not suggesting that there's no research being happening in all these other categories. There are, but the preponderance of attention, resources, talent is going to LLMs at the current moment, and we think that we need to skew it a little bit more to the other areas.
That answers my next question. I think you're harnessing collective intelligence, and I was about to ask you, what if the collective isn't that intelligent? You know,
Oh, what if the collective isn't that intelligent? That's interesting. Um, yeah, I think, look, coming from a financial market background, I'm very sympathetic to that comment. I think, I think, I mean, humans as a collective at different moments in time could obviously exhibit completely irrational behavior. So collective intelligence, i.e., things like market apparatuses, can fail in those moments, right? Because behavioral distortions and biases take over. Um, if we're crowdsourcing human intelligence to try to build better systems, I think all on the margin, relative to the alternative, I think it's more robust and better. However, it doesn't mean that it's infallible. I mean, one of the areas that's actually really interesting, just looking at things like LLMs and applications or systems like ChatGPT, et cetera, is this concept of bias, right? And a lot of times, if you compare these different types of prompt engines from each other, and there's a lot of research done on this, you can almost reverse engineer the bias that was embedded into the model in terms of how it was trained. And sometimes there's non-trivial expressions of political perspectives. There are prejudice embedded in these models in terms of the outputs that they create. Those are really important issues to consider, right? And you hope that things like a market mechanism or competitive structures will help to, um, you know, create more diversity and allow the best version of these systems to be voted in by the market. And again, I don't know, like it's not a guarantee. So I'm not suggesting that it's not fallible. It certainly is, but I do think um, it's like the worst of all evils in some ways, right? Where it's like it is compared to all the other options, is the least the worst one. So I guess we continue to go with it. But I do think that there are incredible amounts of latent, untapped talent around the world, and part of the mission for something like Psi and even AI Arena is to try to reveal these bright minds and give them a platform to really shine, and give them the opportunity to really make contributions to a very exciting field that's going to have profound implications for humanity.
I love it. You said two magic words there. You said untapped talent, right? Right now, there is uh, AI or an AI skills crunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the challenges with like standard recruitment tools, you know, and how do we solve it?
Yeah. I think there's two primary challenges. I mean, the core challenge is there's just not enough people at like the grassroots level that are being funneled into the AI field. Um, and maybe it's a problem that with time we'll solve, because the market is already creating this signal that is incredibly lucrative to get into the field right now, right? Like your average AI engineering, these large AI companies and tech companies are getting seven figure pay packages, right? This is the market, and what that indicates is a severe supply and demand imbalance in human capital. So I think one of the issues is to build, inspire youth so that they want to pursue something like this. That's the first point. And then I guess to your direct question, which is like, what are the gaps right now in terms of traditional recruitment channels in identifying talent? I think historically, AI talent has been largely, um, you know, uh, kind of sourced through official pipelines and channels, those being academic institutions. Whilst I don't think there's anything wrong with that, I think academia works to a large extent. It does. I still do think that academia gets skews towards um, a limited surface area of talent discovery, right? There's only so many spots that are created in these programs, in these kind of like PhD research organizations, where we think that there are naturally kind of self-motivated, um, even like potentially self-trained people, many times perhaps in emerging markets where they never even have the opportunity to apply to a credible Western academic institution to get discovered by these companies. Um, so I think that funnel is rather limited. I'm not saying that it's not effective. It's just we can expand the surface area and create other funnels to discover talent. Um, and then the other thing about Psi and AI Arena as a talent discovery mechanism, in our opinion, is that it's very meritocracy based. Like in in traditional kind of job markets, um, people can you know edit how they present themselves, right? Um, in AI Arena and Sai, you can't edit the results of how well your model performs. Either it's good or it's not, right? It's going to be on a leaderboard as well, and it's there in the public sphere. So what you can be assured of is that the top model that's performing in a lot of these competition and challenges are, in fact, uh, the best models, right? And the person that created them must know something, right? Must understand the basics. Must so it's a way of it's a quality filter that we feel like is more authentic and transparent because there's not you can't really dress that up. It's either if it's good or it's not. It's performance based. So we do truly feel that something like Psy, as we grow and create a network around it over time, will be a platform where some of the best, and in fact, probably all of the best companies come to try to identify talent early on. Because you can see that like there would be enormous motivation to do so because for sure that pipeline of talent discovery is very high friction. It's hard to find these people. And if you can attract all of them in one setting and already have a mechanism to filter out who's really good, that's incredible value that you're delivering to the demand side of that talent pool. So yeah, we're quite excited about the application of these type of systems and networks to the discovery of new talent in this field.
Awesome. I think it was March. I was about to go to the NVIDIA conference and about to go to all their trainings, and I didn't go. But they said, I was like, that it should be something as good as to learn AI and learn these models. And then they said the prerequisites to take these classes were like these different platforms that I'd never heard of in my life. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, I don't know that,
Yeah.
Um, but there is this hype. Well, that's in crypto, right? There's this hype around a couple things. One's meme coins. I don't care. The other thing is AI. Everybody slaps the AI on their token, but they're not building anything with AI. So how do
Yeah.
we move beyond? How do we move beyond the make pretend, beyond the hype, and see real value, not just
Yeah.
money value, but real value accrue in the combination of Web3 and crypto and AI?
It's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer myself, other than to say that um, that that's what's really I hope separates us and set us apart from our competitors in Web3 is that we've always been very authentic in terms of the fact that we're pushing the envelope on AI and actually creating proprietary technology. I agree with you. I mean, sometimes it's very frustrating for us as like good actors in this space to see that other people are being very what do you call it opportunistic in marketing and really just recycling very very commoditized use cases of AI, aka like a LLM using like ChatGPT API and integrating it into something and then calling their product AI product. Look, I mean, definitionally, is it an AI product? Yeah, but then again, like most products are AI products now. So what is the difference between what you're building and what other people are doing? So I think we believe that over time, like the cream rises to the top, right? And we just have to trust in the fact that what we have done is we have already solved really difficult problems in trying to build a radically new type of game that we think other people are going to be confronted with those problems later on. We're just a few years ahead of everyone because we did it first. And I think this is what we're discovering with ARC right now as we work with um, clients. And we're starting to discover many different things where, oh, actually, ARC can be used to solve this problem as well. Whereas we thought was, okay, ARC is really this kind of product where we can help studios develop these new game experiences. And it's still fundamentally that. But within that, there are other problems that they're confronting when integrating AI that we have already solved when we built Arc as a backbone for AI Arena. So I think we believe that that's going to ultimately shine through. And as we work with a variety of different players in the gaming space and beyond, um, yeah, I think Arc as a product is really going to shine through. And then what the market is going to start to understand is that ArenaX has built real AI technology. And without going into the details, like we're working with some large game studios in integrating Arc. They haven't been announced yet, but I would submit and say how many Web3 game studios or Web3 technology companies are actually licensing their technology to large tech players and not the other way around, right? That I think is the litmus test that you have to take, because I can guarantee you 99% of the Web3 AI projects are using AI tech that was created by a large incumbent Web2 company. What we are doing is we're creating proprietary technology that will be used by the incumbents, but we happen to start in Web3. That is the fundamental difference.
That's a pretty darn good litmus test. So if I ever heard one, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. I really enjoyed learning from you and speaking with you, and this was great. I have one last question, and it's really simple compared to everything else. How can people find out more information about you, about ArenaX Labs, about Arc, and play your games? How can they do any of that?
Yeah. So if you're interested about the company, just go to www.arenaxlabs.com, visit our website. It has some high level information about all the things that we do. If you're more interested about AI Arena, the game, you can go to aiarena.io, which is the game site. And from there, you can, join our Discord, join our community, and start to learn kind of the intricacies of how to start to participate within our community and ultimately kind of get access to the game. So I think those are the official channels. We're also quite active on socials. The primary outlet is Twitter or X. You can find us there at our handle on X is AI Arena _. That's our main kind of Twitter account where we broadcast information about the game, and you can follow the latest and the greatest with what's happening in AI Arena there. And yeah, I think those are the official channels, and through that you can probably find my personal contacts as well as the other co-founders and learn more about the team.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Appreciate it. Great to be on. Take care, Jamil.